So I understand that SBR Concessions has a contract with the town for the concessions in the golf course, Tow Bay, pretty much all the concessions, right?
I'm sorry, who just...
I believe it's SBR, Singh Hospitality Group.
Oh, Singh Group, yeah.
Right. Actually, you're gonna laugh, but I did a FOIL and I requested Singh Hospitality Group, and I got a reply that there's no such records. And it turns out that he's actually doing business as SBR Concession.
Corporate name is SBR.
Right. So you know, they wouldn't give me the information. But in any case, what I wanted to ask you about is, I was just reading some of the contract, and I see where it's a pretty long-term contract, I think, to 2025, and there's an agreement that while SBR operates these concessions, they're required to provide, I think, don't quote me, and again, there's no accusations, just questions, I think the figure was maybe $10 million over a period of 10 years, not in cash, but in restitution to the property where they have their concessions.
You mean improvements?
Improvements.
Okay.
That's for
I don't know that, but
okay.
It sounds like...
Well, it sounds pretty good. So here are my two questions. I'd like to know, did the town of Oyster Bay co-sign 2 loans for SBR concessions, both for $1.5 million? Okay. And I'd also like to know, I'm sorry, but are you Mr. May? Frederick May? Are you? Is he today, Fred? Frederick May?
Fred May's not...
Me? Did I pronounce his name wrong? Me? May? Is his
May.
May, I'm sorry. Listen, in 2011, Frederick May signed a document where he acknowledges that SBR Concession has now provided with the town with $4,950,000 worth of improvements to the town golf course. Okay, so I'd like to know, you know, what kind of work was done for $4 million, for $5 million. I mean, you could build a whole golf course. So I'm hoping that at the next meeting you can tell me.
What whole golf course for
$5 million? I don't know. I don't golf. Maybe you can. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't golf. But I'd like to know. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
But the question. I'm sorry. The question is.
A couple of questions. Question is,
Yeah.
did the town co-sign 2 loans with SBR Concession for $1.5 million each loan?
Okay. SBR.
Right. That's the Singh Group that's running the concession stands that you have a contract with.
Right.
Did the town release the information that they planned on co-signing those loans to the public? That's question number 2. I'm sorry. Okay. And I'd like to know, if it's possible, maybe you could just give me like an appropriation, how the $4,950,000 was spent on the town of Oyster Bay golf course.
Okay.
As I don't know if you understand the relationship, but I don't know what year the Singh, we'll call it the Singh Enterprises, entered into contracts with the town for the various entities that you described. I suspect it was probably about 15 years ago. So we enjoyed an excellent relationship with Mr. Singh and the various entities that he does business under. Public very, very much enjoyed the work that he did for the town. And I think like the rest of the world, and this is somewhat conjecture on my part, but I think it's pretty obvious. I think along with the tough economic times that came about, and you know, that 2007, 2009 range, Mr. Singh, like the rest of us, ran into some tough sledding. And I think it's pretty well known now that he has a great deal of financial difficulties. As far as vetting is concerned, we've worked with him for 15 years. We know what he's capable of. We know that his work and his relationship with the residents of the town and the services that he provides are more than acceptable, more than satisfactory. And he ran into difficult economic times. As far as the lease extensions are concerned, I don't know if you're aware, but the Singh contracts are terminable at will, which means that if the town board chose right now to terminate all the contracts, well, we could do that, and he would have no say about it at all. Over the years, he's been an excellent tenant in terms of the relationship with the residents. He's always paid the rent on time. I suspect that, you know, there were times when he may have missed a month here, missed a month there, but never to the point where it was cause for any concern. Now we're beginning to hear, however, that he's having increasingly difficult financial circumstances in many of his endeavors. So I think we in the town now are, I don't want to say circling the wagons, but we're putting everything together to get an accurate picture of what's going on. We would certainly hate to lose them. You're not going to find too many tenants who are going to enter into a contract that's terminable at will. And when you talk about a 20-year extension, again, this is conjecture on my part. I think a pretty good guess is that he wants to use that paper to probably encourage people to loan him money and to say, look, I have a very long-term lease with the town. But again, I point out to you, because you are, you said you are a resident of the town, and presumably concerned about these things beyond politics. And again, having a contract that's terminable at will, I don't want to say that the length doesn't matter, but as a practical matter to us, it really doesn't. We can terminate it on a moment's notice. And it might matter to him in terms of his ability to borrow money and keep his own ship afloat. But again, that's speculative on my part. And what we're doing in the town right now is trying to get an accurate picture of exactly where he's at and whether his relationship with us is threatened in any way. We don't know that yet.
Okay. And the other question?
Excuse me?
And the other question I asked with regard to previous donations.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'll get you an answer though. We'll have to. I would guess that he probably has contributed over the many years. I don't know to what extent. I can. Everybody would have to look at their own personal records. I don't have mine available right now.
And
But I'll find out. And we can give you.
Is it normal practice to do extensions without bidding for other potential?
Yeah, I think in this, I'm looking over the town attorney, but yeah, I don't think there's any problem.
Not with the license.
This is, keep in mind, you heard what he said, it's a license provision. And as I said, I'm sorry, I'll give you the floor in a second. I just have to keep impressing upon you that these contracts are terminable.
Right. So it's like almost like an NFL contract. You have a contract, but if you decide tomorrow it's over, you can do that.
Yeah, unilaterally. And if you think about it, is it Robert?
Yes. Or Bob.
Robert, if you
Bob.
think, well, like Bob. Bob, if you think about it, I don't know too many concessionaires out there who would be willing to enter into. One of the very attractive things about the Singh group over the many years has been they've been very, very compliant. Again, very, very responsive to the residents. I think if you talk to most residents, they're going to give them pretty good reviews. I don't think you're going to find too many concessionaires out there who would want the arrangement that he has. But unfortunately, at least it appears that he has hit upon troubled times. And I don't know that that's the reason why we should suddenly turn our back on him and kick him out. But having said that, we are the keepers of the town's treasure, if you will. And yeah, if there's any danger to the town or our finances, we may have no choice. Hopefully it won't come to that. I personally would like to see him do well. He served us well for a very long time, but if it can't be, it can't be. But those answers remain to be seen.
Thank you.
First of all, where to begin? You started out with the premise, and you used the word yourself, that no one disclosed to you the penalties that the town might incur as a result of the termination of the contracts in question. There are no penalties, and I think this is a notion that has to be dispelled, and it's one of the criticisms I had when you were here the last time, because it indicates, and please, I think you're a candidate, and my feeling was you should have known that. You should have done your homework. Under the original,
Shouldn't you have disclosed it when I asked the question?
No, but if you're a candidate running for public office, and you come up here and you make a statement, not only here, but you make it publicly, that the town is going to incur penalties in the event of termination, you should know that that's not accurate. You should understand, under the original agreement with the Singh enterprises, if there was a terminate, first of all, the town has the absolute right to terminate the license agreement with Mr. Singh at any time. The license agreement is terminable at will. He is a licensee, okay? That's number one. Number two, if the license is terminated without cause, then any other work that the licensee was required to do under the contract in the nature of improvements to the various facilities, the town, pursuant to formulas, would have to reimburse him for that work. For example, the licensee enters into the agreement and he says that he will make $1 million worth of improvements at a certain location. He makes the $1 million in improvements. The day after he completes the improvements, the town says, you know what, we're terminating the license. I think it's only reasonable and it's only fair that he be reimbursed for some or all of the improvements that he made.
Right.
And I would say to the extent that he expended monies out of his own pocket, I think that's fair and that's reasonable. That's always been the agreement. Those are not penalties. Now, if the contract is terminated for cause under the original agreement, that would give rise to a different set of circumstances where the town may not be responsible to reimburse for any improvements. Because I think you made a statement, you paraphrased what I said last time, that I made the statement that we will owe nothing at the golf course. I never said that.
No, I didn't say that. I read your quote. You want me to reread your quote that's actually published in the newspaper?
No, but you just said it now. You just said it now. And it's not that we will, we may, we don't know yet. The termination hasn't come to pass. So the point is, this notion that the town entered into a bad arrangement and is going to suffer a penalty upon termination is just not so.
So did the town extend his agreement after Capital One Leasing had already commenced procedures to reclaim their equipment because he was in default?
I don't know the timing. I really don't know the timing. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the timing.
So then, in terms of what the town would pay, at the last meeting you said that the town would not owe money if you terminated the Tobey contract, or license, I should say, right? And
Bob, let me repeat what I said at the last meeting verbatim, because I remember what I said. You raised this issue, and I said to you that that's an issue that the town's lawyers are currently reviewing. But right now, my understanding is that if we were to terminate tomorrow, we would owe nothing at Tobey, and we may owe a fixed amount at the golf course, but that amount would be substantially less than the improvements that were made there over the years. That was my statement.
Okay.
It's an accurate statement, and it's a statement I give you today.
do you feel extending his license for 45 years, 45 years and 55 years is in the best interest of the residents of this town?
I know, it really doesn't bear on any of the consequences that we're talking about. I don't know how many times I need to say it, but the contract is terminable, that will.
Before I begin, I noticed that you're using the term license today, but I'm going to be speaking about like the contract agreement. I don't know, is there a difference? Do you consider it the same thing?
No, I don't actually. Different legal ramifications flow.
That's what I thought. So I'm not addressing any licenses today. Actually, these are some questions that I asked earlier that Mr. Fryer asked, and I know you took a long time and you explained like you did today that there were no ramifications, but I have some, and you also explained that if the town was to terminate the contract and did have to pay a termination amount, it would be substantially less than the capital improvements made at the golf course. But I have some documents, and actually I have some to share with you. I want to share some with our esteemed members of the press today. And some copies for the town. I'm sure you probably have seen most of these already. It sounds from Councilman Alicia just made a mention. It sounds like she's aware of this stuff. And the first piece that I wanted to address is an amendment to the concession agreement that actually, this appears that it was, it appears that you, Mr. Supervisor, signed it on June 8th of 2010. It was also signed by Singh, and those signatures were notarized. It looks like yours was notarized by Louis Tripido, and Mr. Singh's by Patricia Barnello. And I believe Patricia Barnello, is your treasurer of your North Massapequa Republican Club, and I think she's on the Zoning Board of Appeals here, but I'd like to
No,
ask
she's
her.
not on the zoning board of appeals, and she's not the treasurer of the North Massapequa Republic.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that to me. Excuse me, can I have it for a second? That's the wrong one. I'm sorry, it's the same thing, but it's and what I'd like to bring your attention to in this contract is this is an amendment to one of your earlier contracts. And on the first page, you could take note that the town here is explaining that SRB Corporation has completed capital improvements in the amount of $1,782,662. And then, excuse me. On page 2, it lists the amendments to the contract. And if you take a minute and look at the second amendment, paragraph 2 there, I don't think it makes sense to talk about what was going to happen prior to April 30th, 2015, because obviously we're after that date. So I'd just like to discuss this. What this contract amendment says is that after April 30th, 2015, if the town terminates this agreement for any reason other than a default of the concessionaire, which would be SRB, the town shall pay to the concessionaire a sum equal to 5% of the capital improvements made to the facility by the concessionaire for each year or part of a year remaining in the initial term of this agreement, including any remaining renewal options up to 100% of the value of said improvements. Now, I have this stuff in chronological order, but I'm just going to jump ahead of myself. I also have another document that's prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney. This was prepared on April 6th of 2011. I'll share it with you in a second. But what this says is, in connection with the above referenced matter, the town of Oyster Bay hereby certifies that SRB has completed and the town has accepted capital improvements to the golf course facility in the amount of $4,950,000. These funds may be considered as fully vested for the purposes of payment to SRB and or Madison Bank, as the case may be in accordance with the proposed assignment agreements in the event of default or other termination of the concession agreement between the town and SRB. So I'm a little confused that you signed this document and in the last couple of meetings, you didn't know anything about it. There was no termination penalty, not penalty, I don't want to use the word penalty, but no agreement of what would be paid if there was a termination. And now, from what I can read of this, I only have a high school education, so I'm not that sharp. But from what I make it out of this, it looks like if you were to terminate, you would either have to pay Singh or SRB 5% of, I guess, $5 million till the end of the contract, 2070, or the completed amount of capital improvements, which would be almost $5 million. So is the town, if you were to terminate, is the town looking at possible payment of $5 million to SRB?
See, I don't think I can do any better than give you the answer I gave earlier. I'm going to stand by the same answer because we're going over the same ground again. I'm going to stand by the answer that I gave to Mark Friday.
Okay. I just wanted to move on to...
Please, Rob. Listen, don't take it the wrong way. I don't mean to be difficult. But we really are, meeting after meeting, we're going over the same ground over and over again. Let's move on. Let's leave it.
I don't think I've ever brought this to your attention, these figures, these documents. As a matter of fact, I'm disturbed that you specifically said that there were no terminations. You could walk. You just said it again. You could walk away at any time. No terminations, no worries. This looks like a big worry to me. But I'll move on. I'll move on to that.
But that isn't what we said. You see, that's the difficult. You know what? I'm just going to be clear on this. That is not what we said. Please continue. Move on to the next.
Thank you. The next document I'd like to share with you is this was produced by the Office of the Town Attorney on June 17th of 2010. It's a letter to Madison National Bank. It's in reference to a $1,500,000 line of credit, the lender being Madison National Bank and the borrower being SRB Concessions Incorporated. Let's give you a copy of that if you like. And this letter was produced by town attorney, actually it's signed by Frederick May. And the first paragraph explains that I have acted as counsel to the town of Oyster Bay in connection with the line of credit made by Madison National Bank to the SRB Concession Incorporated in a principal amount of $1,500,000. In so acting, I have reviewed the agreement between the town and SRB Concession dated April 19, 2005, and the amendments and agreements between the town and SRB Concession dated September 16, 2008, June 9, 2010, and the default assignment and concession agreement records between SRB Incorporated and Madison National Bank, and agreed to and accepted by the town dated June 18, 2010. And I'd just like to bring your attention to this default assignment of concession agreements, which was dated June 8, 2010, and this has been signed by Town Attorney Leonard Genova. This document reads, the assigner, that's SRB Concessions, hereby assigns to the assignee, that's Madison National Bank, all payments and any other sums of money which are due, claim to be due, or will become due, any due under by reason or if arising out of the concession agreement, including without limitation payments which are payable to the assigner, that's SRB Concession, under the pursuant to paragraph 32 of the concession agreement, which I just read to you. This assignment is made as collateral security for a certain $1,500,000 line of credit, the line of credit made available by the assignee, that's Madison National, to the assigner. Now this is what I find interesting. If there is an event of default under the line of credit, which default remains uncured beyond the expiration of any applicable notice of the cure period, then assigner agrees that assignee in its interest may appear, may serve a notice of default upon Tobay. After service of a default notice upon Tobay, the assignee shall be entitled to, with respect to the concession agreement, to receive and collect any and all monies due, claimed to be due, and to become due as aforesaid, and to give all releases required to be given thereof, and the assigner does hereby appoint the assignee true and lawful attorney irrevocably for it, and in its name instead, for the assignee's own benefit, to task, demand, collect, receive, and sue for the monies due, as hereinafter more specifically set forth, or to become due as aforesaid, and to do any and all acts and things necessary and proper in connection therewith, with the same force and effect of the assigner could have done, said this assignment had not been made, hereby ratifying and confirming all that said absentee may lawfully, by virtue thereof. Now, my question is, does this mean that the town guaranteed a $1.5 million loan for SRB Concession? And I asked you in the last meeting, I asked you questions regarding the termination of the agreement and the default, and you answered my question to the termination, but when I asked you about the default, you said I already answered it. But I mean, you know, you're an attorney, you're a smart guy, there's a difference between termination and default. So if Mr. Singh defaults, which means that he loses his lawsuit and he's going out of business, is the town going to have to pay for this loan?
Look, Rob, I'm going to stand by the answer. Again, we've gone over this ground several times. I'm going to stand by the answer I gave Bob prior, but we'll take under advisement what you submitted to us this morning. I'll have the attorneys go through it.
Thank you.
I guess give me their opinion.
There's just one last piece of information I'd like to bring to your bring to your attention in regards to the contracts. I know that when questioned about the extensions of the contracts, you explained that the town had no reason to believe that there were any financial difficulties with Mr. Singh and with SRB, and it's part of the reason that you decided to, part of the reason that you gave that you decided to extend the contracts to 2070. But I also have a subordination agreement. You can have a copy if you like. And this is between Sovereign Bank and Mr. Singh. And what I really find interesting about this...
Rob, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry, this is within Sovereign Bank, Ms. Harinder Singh, and the Madison National. Actually, it appears to be like a consolidation of loans where Mr. Singh is now looking for like a $12 million loan. But what I found remarkable is that these documents, which I believe were supplied to the town, explain that Harinder Singh is using his life insurance policy as collateral in this loan. That is the act of a desperate individual. If this information was known to the town prior to extending the contracts. I just don't understand why the town would be getting involved with someone that's in such dire straits in business.
If that was a question, it's the same answer, and we'll take a look at the document.
Thanks.
It's not there. And you rightly pointed out this morning that you need to hear from your town. And the public does have an absolute right to know, and they will know. But when you are dealing with outside agencies who are overseeing, overlooking, or looking into the matter, when you're dealing with the potential for very significant litigation, which could impact upon the residents of this town, there's a way you need to do things. And sometimes being quiet and doing it the professional and the right way to protect the residents is much more difficult than standing up and pounding your chest and using all sorts of adjectives the way political opponents do, for example. What political opponents don't realize is in their zeal to get elected, they're hurting the taxpayers of this town. They're actually giving ideas to the people who have caused some of the problems we're faced with. They're giving momentum to some of the people who caused the problem.
I'd like to know, I wasn't aware that I actually had a copy of the October 30th agreement with Horrendous Singh for the golf course agreement. And I'd like to know, can you tell me who's...
I'm sorry, Rob, October 30th of what year?
2000.
Okay.
I wonder if you could tell me, who's been doing the waste removal for SRB?
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, if you have a company. If you don't, it's okay. If you have to find out, whatever.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out. I have no idea.
All right, because I just understand that a couple of years ago, the town had to put some trash compactors down in Tobay because the restaurants generate so much refuse, and SRB is dumping directly into the contractors. I would assume the town is emptying the contractors, and according to the contract, he's supposed to be paying for his own waste removal.
Yeah, I have no idea. We'll have to find out.
That's no problem. I don't know if you remember, back in 2000, I'll give you a copy of it. There was a rider that was produced, and it's signed by you, Mr. Venditto, and Mr. Singh. I'd just like to know, was there a resolution behind it? Maybe you recall, maybe you don't, maybe you could find out for me.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to have to.
You know, just later on, I don't expect you to know.
I have about, like of every resolution that's ever come before the town board, I have like a 99% retention rate.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Maybe you could just look that up for me.
No, I'll find out, Bob.
That's no problem. Listen, I wanted to just speak quickly about, sorry. Okay. There's a clause in the contract, transfer of assignment. I'm not going to read the thing, but the bottom line is that it would have been okay for SRB to sell a portion of their, bless you, to sell a portion of their interest. However, they couldn't do it without the town's permission. Okay, the town, I got to read it. It says the concessionaire may not assign or otherwise transfer all or any part of its interest in this agreement in the premises without the prior written consent of the town, which consent will not be unreasonably withheld. And it goes on to say, provided, however, that the concessionaire may assign its interest to any person, corporation, or financing entity who he owes money to, basically. So my point is that...
Well, I'm sorry, Rob, what are you reading from? What?
Oh, this is the 2000 agreement, October 30th, 2000 agreement?
Okay.
So my point is that I understand that Mr. Chopra and another entity, another person have purchased an interest in SRB concessions. Ms. Singh, Ruby Singh owns a portion, they own the other two portions. But this couldn't happen without the town's approval. I don't believe that it happened it's not, I don't believe that it happened like in the last couple of weeks. Okay, I get the impression from what I'm hearing at the meetings that it's almost as if the golf course is trying to invent a new persona where there's nobody connected to SRB operating the golf course. When the fact is that Mr. Chorba, either with or without your approval, at some time purchased an interest in this, and it's still SRB. Just because in my, and I don't want to say, I don't want to insult anybody, but just because a dummy corporation was started in November to run the concession under now, I mean, that's right out there. So I don't understand how Mr. Chorba, or I'd like to know if you guys agreed for the, at some time, for the purchase, for Singh to sell a portion of his interest.
Not to, I don't want to be argumentative at all. I think I covered most of this in the statement I made to Bob Fryer earlier. I'll just add this for what it's worth. You have a 2000 agreement there. I think it's probably a multi-page document. How many pages is it? It's probably very...
It's like 30 pages.
30 pages. There have been, over the years, so we're going back 15 years, there have probably been any number of riders, amendments, changes, things of that nature. So something like this really would have to be looked at. And by the way, don't read anything into this, but because we may have a right under a contract, doesn't necessarily mean we have to enforce that right. If there's a higher priority, as I indicated earlier, perhaps that enters into it as well. But there's a lot involved, going back to 2000 and tracing the history, so you'll have to indulge us.
My point is, though, that you do have an opportunity to vet people that would be interested in purchasing into the deal.
Oh, yeah.
That's my point.
Let me tell you something. That's ongoing.
So Chopra...
Rob, hear me on
sorry, go ahead.
That's ongoing as we speak. Just keep in mind what I said earlier about what the highest priorities are.
Okay. I also noticed that there's a paragraph, it's a paragraph 38, accounting, where the town, you have the authority, it says the concessionaire shall keep books and records of account in accordance with the generally accepted accounting procedures. On or before the first day of April of each calendar year of this agreement, the concessionaire shall provide the town with a copy of a statement of income and balance sheet. In accordance with the uniform system of accounts or other previously approved format covering the operation of the licensed premises for the previous calendar year. It says the concessionaire shall permit the town or its authorized representatives to inspect and audit appropriate books and records at any reasonable time during business hours after giving 24-hour notice. So I'd like to know, during this whole period, I mean, we're doing business with some suit from 2000, has the town ever performed an audit and accounting of his books?
I need some help with that. I don't know. We'd love to find out. I guess I'll have to contact the control.
Okay. Just two more things, and I'll get out of here.
I appreciate it. Reasons if you could.
We spoke last meeting about capital improvements. And I understand that the town is now, you mentioned that you're trying to get together the actual capital improvements that are done and everything, and we're trying to come to terms on what credit we gave him, what was actually spent. What I find ironic is in this contract, there's on page 20 of the contract, it's paragraph 39, there's an actual agreement, an actual list of capital improvements that were supposed to be performed within 3 years. SRB was supposed to spend $2,097,000. They were supposed to do all new windows and doors. This is in the golf course only. All new windows and doors. They were supposed to construct an atrium on the east side and south side of the clubhouse. They were supposed to construct a 1,200 square foot atrium off the grill room. They were supposed to totally renovate the grill room. They were supposed to build a construction wine bar. They were supposed to construct outside service facilities to better serve golfers. They were supposed to add storage facilities. They were supposed to renovate and remodel the upstairs dining room. They were supposed to redo the main staircase. They were supposed to install tile floor in the sunroom. They were supposed to upgrade all the fireplaces. They were supposed to repaint and wallpaper the entire premises. They were supposed to install new carpeting. They were supposed to complete landscaping in the front circle and the rear side of the clubhouse. And they were supposed to do some sort of deco package. Now, just to jump ahead to 208, the town gave credit in 208 to SRB as having performed $751,637.50 in capital improvements. It doesn't seem like a rounded number, it seems like an exact number. So what my questions are, I'd like to know, how did we continue, or did we verify that all this work was done prior to extending the contracts, moving on after the 3 years? And I'd like to know if any of this work was ever done, and I'd like to know how we came up with the $751,000 back in 2008, and if that's I mean, are we now working from that number on to determine how much in capital improvements have really been done? I'm sorry, I was wondering, I don't know if it was a question, I don't know if you got it or not. Is the 751,000, is that a real number, and now we're figuring from there on how much you did?
I'm sorry, I apologize. I think when you're talking about, a contract that spanned 15 years or so, whatever, I don't personally have it committed to memory. I doubt that anyone in this room does, but we'll get you your answer.
Okay, just one last thing, and I really think that this is pretty important. I don't understand what happened with this at all. This is page 22 of that same document. It's subparagraph H. Excuse me for a second. That's sorry. Subparagraph H reads, concessionaire and Harinder Singh individually agree to hold themselves liable for the payment of all materials, labor, and other expenses incurred as a result of the capital improvements. It being the intention of the parties that this provision shall be in lieu of a construction bond. I'd like to know, why in the world would we ever allow a project like this to begin without a bond, without a surety of construction bond? I mean, there is no reason, there is no benefit for the town at all to allow any contractor to do any work without a bond. I mean, it gives them everything. They don't have to pay a percentage for the bond, and that, I mean, if we would have got a construction bond, we wouldn't even be talking about capital improvements now. They'd all be covered, right?
Well, again, I have to give you the same answer, brother.
Okay, I understand. I know that you're under a lot of, I don't want to use the word duress, but with everything going on, I know there's not much you could say, but, I just felt it was important to come up and bring these items to your attention and ask you the questions.
You don't have to justify your appearance, and you don't have to justify your questions and the information you're seeking. I just have to respect the fact that, when you're talking about a comprehensive 15-year or more now history, we'd have to go back and look at we don't even have the contracts here.
No, I understand what you're saying, but, just understand.
You gotta let me finish talking.
I'm sorry, John.
We'd have to go back and, go through the history to see if the provisions you're reading are still in force and effect, whether or not the work was actually done. Like, the same inquiries that you made. So give us an opportunity, we'll take a look at it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you very much. Bob Fry, do you want this back, the council manager? Sure, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for participating in, I did indicate that at this meeting, I would do as best I could to put together some kind of a statement with respect to the future of the concession agreements at, I guess at the Woodlands and, of course, the various beach concessions. So I'm prepared to do that. I'll take it as far as I can go today, and then we have a second matter which Councilwoman Alessi will bring. So first let me, I have a detailed statement. I'll try to get it down to as plain English as I can. During the pendency of SRB's obvious difficulties with its Oyster Bay holdings, certain investors purchased interests in the SRB entity which did not require town board approval. This group of new investors have done a very good job during their tenure at the various facilities. All of the brides have been happy, and the summer beach season came off without incident. The current operators have approached the town of Oyster Bay through their council and have asked the town board to consider allowing them to remain as permanent concessionaires. The town, through its attorneys, it happens to be Quinn Emanuel in this case, has agreed to review a proposal from the current operators, which is expected to include, among other things, the following points. And these points the new investors have committed to providing. Number one, removing the disputed amendments from the concession agreements that purport to create financial obligations for the town on the concessionaire's underlying loans. Number two, the successful vetting of all individuals involved in this group of new investors. The investigatory firm of K2 has already been retained by the town to begin this vetting process. That firm is a well-established firm. They have some 40 years of bringing analytic and advisory excellence, if you will, and independence to their investigations. I think the vice chairman of the firm is someone well known to most of the people in the audience here. It's the former New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. Number three, all outstanding arrears would be satisfied. Number four, the term of the license, which once again would be terminable at will, would be reduced to approximately 25 years. Number five, and lastly, Mr. Singh and any of his family members shall have no interest of any kind or nature whatsoever in the business. Now, the foregoing in no way represents the totality of the proposal, but would address enough of the substantive issues to have the board agree that it would be in the best interest of the town and its residents to, at the very least, review it. I guess I should emphasize again that the process is in a very sensitive stage, and the only thing the town is committed to doing now is to review the foregoing proposal that I just outlined with council. Now, once submitted, the town board will make a decision as to whether or not it will move forward with the new investors. If the board rejects the proposal, the town expects to terminate the existing concession agreements, appoint an emergency operator if necessary, and issue a formal request for proposals, and award a new concession agreement in an impartial manner. While there has been much ado about this situation over the past several months, I would again remind everyone that our highest priority is to protect the town's treasury and, of course, the welfare of the residents who have done business at the various concessions. The obvious potential for litigation does require us to move very deliberately, but only after reviewing all aspects of the situation with council. I guess on behalf of all of us on the Oyster Bay Town Board, and I believe all the members, after I complete the statement, will indicate their concurrence with it. We have to and will continue to do exactly that, and to report back to our constituency after the submittal and review of the proposal. So I would just ask all of the board members to acknowledge their agreement with the statement I just made, and we'll proceed with the next item of business. I think that's sufficient. Each board member is acknowledging by nodding their heads. Councilwoman Rebecca Rossi, item number 2.
So before we move on, I know we all not at our consent, and we're all in agreement to move forward as you suggested. I spoke to you earlier today. My only concern, and I believe it's a concern of the entire board together and yourself, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. Our goal, my goal, we have to do this as publicly and as transparent as we possibly can, so that everybody can see what we're going through here and the decisions that will be made. And I know there's some legal ramifications involved, and everything may not be able to be spoken about until it comes to some conclusion, but I believe the process has to be public and transparent. I'm sure you feel the same way.
I thought I indicated that in the statement, maybe not as graphically as you did, so I will incorporate your remarks into the statement as well.
Yeah, okay. So my question is, the wedding business is obviously a highly specialized business. There are certainly some very well-known catering companies on Long Island. I could probably list 10 off the top of my head right now. This investor group certainly doesn't fall into that category, so why wouldn't you go to an outside RFP? You know, it's a top facility. Why wouldn't you want a top flight, one of the caterer running it?
I think we did answer that.
Well, I wasn't here, so so you're repeating yourself.
I'm sorry. I think what I said, and the commissioner can back me up because he observed it personally, they did an excellent job. They really did. And they showed that they have the ability. Don't forget, they inherited brides and grooms and families who were reading all the adverse publicity about what happened with Singh, and many of them wanted to cancel weddings. Many of them had no faith left in the facility, and what these guys did through that period of time that the commissioner described is they restored confidence in it. I think they all went off without a hitch. I mean, nothing's perfect in this world, but I think they all went off without a hitch. I don't think did we lose any brides? None of them changed course, and now they're coming forward with a proposal, which I think we as responsible elected officials have to at least review. I don't know if you heard the 5 points that they've committed to achieving in their proposal. I'll go through them with you if need be, but they are certainly very attractive. We should at least listen to them.